Welcome back, guys. We are finally off of the 2GR red MR2 and we're back now on our Gen 5 3S GTE. So this is, if you're just joining us, my friend Gregory. He has 3 MR2s, he has 3 turbo MR2s, and none of them run. So one is a 94 MR2 and he bought this Gen 5 3S GTE, so I'm helping him to put it together so we can swap his car and get him running. So today I am going to just start to put this engine back together. It started off as a very dirty engine that came here, meaning front was full of rust. It was just nasty, like oxidation everywhere. So I pulled it apart. You guys probably, if you follow the channel, you've seen some of the videos where we stripped it apart. Didn't really focus too much on it, but I did off camera rip it apart, and as you can see down here, there are tons of parts that we took off and got them painted. There are tons of new parts. So I guess I'll just kind of give you guys a rundown. We got our fuel rail over there. In that box, we got the injectors clean, exhaust manifold, fuel system kit right here. These are all the gaskets for the turbo, oil lines, intake manifold, oil pump, water pump, thermostat housing, modified water neck. It's a whole bunch of stuff. Downpipe, timing belt. These are all our timing cover pieces. So today I gotta get all of this done. There's our valve cover that was just painted. I gotta get all of this done. I don't know if I can get it done in one video, but we're gonna try to at least get everything minus the timing, and then we can do a separate video on the timing, because I know a lot of you guys are probably interested. Now I do have videos that I've done before with the timing, but nobody wants to go back and watch old videos, so we're gonna do some new ones for you. So what I'm gonna do is, let me bring you over to the engine. I'll show you what it looks like. This is the after we had it cleaned up and painted, and I'm gonna throw on the valve cover. And valve cover first, fuel rail next, then intake manifold, and then we'll figure out where we are from there. All right, so let's start off with this engine. So the block, this thing was covered in rust. So I went ahead and I basically wire wheeled it, and then we threw some high temp engine paint on it. So it's looking a lot better, much cleaner. We did take off the turbo, and it's for the Gen 5, the manifold in the turbo is 1 unit. If you look right over there, you'll see it right on the floor. So everything is 1 unit. But coming back to the engine here, you know, we took it off. My friend Greg was gonna go get that turbo upgraded, and I kind of talked him out of it, and a bunch of guys talked him out of it, because it's our opinion that the factory turbo system is a lot more efficient than these upgrades that people are selling. So we're gonna go put it back on. So that said, you know, it was a good opportunity to get everything cleaned. It was a lot easier to paint a block with it off, but now we gotta do the work and put it back on. So that's off. This is the oil cooler block off plate. There is a O-ring inside of here. At some point, not today's video, we're gonna pull this thing, we're gonna replace that O-ring, because typically it doesn't leak, but on my Gen 5 swap it actually leaks, so I like to just replace them going forward. So we're gonna replace that. This line here, there's a rubber hose that comes here. Normally you wouldn't pull these, but this one was cut when it came, so I got a new one. So we have to, the way this is either you're pulling it off of this side, which I can't find the washers for here, so I didn't pull this section. So I had to pull this piece, which I was able to find the gasket that goes behind here from Prime MR2. So we got to get that fit up, but basically we got to put the turbo back on here. But this is what it looks like, guys. Much cleaner than when it came in. Looking in on top of the valve cover here, this is a good sense of, you know, what these engines, you know, do they have the 50,000 miles like everybody says? Because these engines have had 50,000 miles since the 2000s, and we're obviously in 2025. So, you know, you never know. I don't think they have 50,000 miles, but looking at what's inside here, it doesn't look too bad. So overall, I think this engine should be fairly strong and should be a good runner. But yeah, it's cleaned up. All of this was full of oxidation. I sanded it and, you know, used a razor and just kind of went through and cleaned up as best as I could. But I think all in all, it came out pretty good. Looking on the side of the timing cover here, let me roll this thing around. You know, we pulled off the 2 cam gears. We're going to change the seals, the cam seals, so that will come up. I think we'll do that on a separate video, because just doing the timing is a video by itself. Water pump is off here, we're gonna put that on. Oil pump, we gotta pull this off, replace the seal in the back and the rubber seal back here. And we'll also take the crank seal out and replace it. Started to pull the crank gear off right here, but yeah, this is what it is. And if we look to the back, not much to see, but we'll bring it around anyways. This side got painted. This side was actually pretty good. It wasn't really that rusty, so it came out, you know, if the front side looked as good as the back side, then it would have been much easier in terms of the work we had to do to get this to this stage. So with that said, we're gonna move on. We're gonna go get the valve cover on now. I did paint it black. All my valve covers I paint them black because I think it looks good. So let's get that valve cover on and start putting this thing together. All right, so 6 foot-pounds on your manifold bolt, valve cover bolts. And what I'm using is the dress-up kit here. So we replaced the factory Gen 5 bolts with this dress-up kit from TCS. So looks pretty good, nice and shiny. Plus, honestly, on this engine, these bolts are actually, they were so rusted that the heads were rounded, so I couldn't use them back even if I wanted to. But I always go with the TCS dress-up kit anyway. I think it looks pretty cool. So just torque all of these 6 foot-pounds and you're good to go. All right, next up, there's a good opportunity to get your catch can in. So we're gonna slip this on here. And again, it goes on with the driver's side hook to lift the engine out. So it's kind of a little bit tricky, but just, yeah, I like to loosen this bracket and then just slip everything in. And it goes on pretty good. Alright, let's get the fuel system on. So valve cover is on. I like it, looking good. And now we're gonna get the fuel system on. Now, injectors. The big question, do you clean your injectors? Do you not clean your injectors? Now, I'm gonna definitely recommend you clean them because, you know, like we said before, nobody knows if these engines are 50,000 miles. I really doubt it. So, you know, just having them cleaned and knowing that they flow well, especially in turbo application, I think it's good. I clean all the injectors on my cars. Like even the 2GR, I had the injectors cleaned, and you know, engines run good when they, so far, and haven't had an issue, but definitely recommend that you clean them. So let's get these plugged in here. Make sure your seals are good. So these O-rings are not torn, otherwise you'll probably have a leak, and the rubbers down here, they're soft and you know, they'll seal properly once you put them in. I like to put a little bit of, I use this rubber, it's VRP, so it's really for rubber and stuff, so just to kind of lubricate the O-rings, so when I put them in, it doesn't you know, snag on anything and tear them. So just something I always do, something I recommend that you guys do as well. All right, so we just snap these in, and you normally kind of feel when it seats. It shouldn't be too loose and it shouldn't be too tight. So yep, so there you go. Now we're gonna go slip these side into the engine and we're good to go. So this is held in with 3 bolts, and there's a little spacer that's on it. Make sure when you pull these off, you do not forget those, otherwise it will not fit in too well. So yeah, all right, there you go. And then we're just gonna slip these in. Should go down nice and snug. This part doesn't lock in, it just, the rubber seal just presses on onto the injector, and that's how it seals. Now we're gonna tighten these down to 19 foot-pounds. All right, 19 foot-pounds, so we're done here. All 3 in. Now we can get our intake manifold on, or we can put our turbo on. So let's see which one I decide to do. Hope you guys are enjoying this. All right, now full transparency. Normally I replaced this gasket, but I could not find it. It was not available, so yeah, I'm gonna reuse it and hope for the best here. But Gregory, we couldn't find this gasket, just so you know. So we're using the one that came with it. I did clean it up really nicely, and I made sure the surfaces on the engine and the intake manifold are nice and clean. So fingers crossed, we should be good here, should seal properly. But yeah, I don't know, they're hard to find parts for this engine. That's why the 2GR swap is probably the way to go. And I got a 2GR, which I'm very happy with. All right, so for the intake manifold, normally I paint this silver, but I went with a different theme this time. So I did kind of like this cast coat iron finish, which it looks a little bit dark right now, but once the heat gets it, it kind of lightens up. So actually it turns out really nice. So I just wanted to do something a little bit different. I did the black valve cover, so I did a different intake manifold. On Uncle Kevin's Gen 4, that one was a black manifold, which actually looked pretty good. But yeah, just changing it up a little bit here. So now we're gonna go slap this baby out. All right, so let's get the intake manifold on. And correction, The fuel rail bolts are actually 14 foot-pounds. The intake manifold is 19. So I did torque it to the right thing, but I set the wrong spec. So just in case, 19 foot-pounds on this one, 14 foot-pounds on the fuel rail. So let's get this guy on. So here's our hardware for the intake manifold. So these are gonna get installed and torqued to 19 foot-pounds. Now, if I bring you guys under here, this section, if on your Gen 5 when it comes in, it's gonna have a section that comes down like this. You're gonna have to grind it off so it looks like this. Just kind of smooth it out, because what happens is when you put your alternator bracket on here, it's gonna get in the way of the extension piece that's on this side of the intake manifold. So don't forget that, because if you do, again, it's not the end of the world if you install it and you have to grind it off afterwards, but just a nice cleaner look when you can paint it, if you're painting it, assuming you are. And you just throw your alternator bracket on when you drop your engine out and start swapping parts over. As I torque this down, you know, there is a canister that goes back here for the boost control, factory boost control solenoid. On this car, we're not going to replace that because we're going to go with a manual boost controller, or, well, definitely a boost controller. I think it's manual. I think that's what Gregory has. I know he has electronic. Gregory has a lot of parts. So I think we're just going to go with a manual though, set it and leave it at like, for this thing to run like 15 to 16 pounds of boost. If Gregor had his way, he'll run it up to 20. Gregor loves boost. But anyways, you know, we won't replace that piece that was here, which is a little, it's like a zinc finished canister that you will see coming standard on your motor. All right, guys, now for the throttle body, I'm gonna put it in place, but I'm not gonna bolt it down because I don't have the wire harness yet. And what you find is when you get your wire harness, it's a lot easier to install the harness with the throttle body off. Otherwise, you're kind of fighting to get the wires in place below here. So we're just gonna leave this on for now, but once the harness comes back, we'll get this installed. There's a gasket that goes behind here. So this is definitely a temporary install for right now. And next up, we're gonna put the turbo on, and it's a little song and dance because I didn't pull this section as I mentioned earlier, because I can't get these washers. There are two washers behind here, and maybe they're reusable, but I really don't know. So I couldn't get them, so I decided not to pull it. So because of that, I had to pull all the studs out of the exhaust. So you'll see how I'm gonna basically do the reverse. I think it's gonna be a little bit of a challenge, but we're gonna get it done. And then this pipe, the water pipe, it was all rusty, so I painted the areas that were rusted, and then I capped off this section. You don't use this nipple here for the Gen 5 swap, so you gotta cap it off. TCS does sell these caps. So this is capped, and if you look right here, there's an oil line, or a water line, I believe, that was here as well. You gotta cap this off as well. So it's capped here, it's capped over here, and yeah, you definitely need that with the Gen 5 conversion. There's a line that typically comes here, and you just remove that. All right, so now we're gonna get this piece back on. And the reason why I'm putting this on is once the turbo is in place, it's a lot harder to get this snugged in. So now is your time to get it installed. Now I'll leave this a little bit loose because we got to get the water pump in, and to get a water pump in, you got to change this O-ring right here. So yeah, I'm not going to tighten it fully, but you guys get the idea what I'm trying to do. Turbo is going to go on here, so this obviously has to go on before. Help yourself out. All right, so I just test fitted the water neck. I'm going to install it, but I'm not ready yet. I want to get the turbo on, but just wanted to make sure the clearance is good. So we are set here, and I guess this is a good opportunity. You know, you see I have my Nasty Addiction Garage hat on because, you know, obviously I do YouTube MR2 content. Nasty Addiction does the same. We have guys like MR2 Daily Driven, my buddy Steven, he's here in Florida as well. funny guy. So check out his channel, and So 90s MR2. You know, all these guys put good MR2 content out, and you know, if you're a fan, you're a fan. So if you didn't know about those guys, go check them out. Really nice guys, you know, good community, and we share information and share parts and all of that good stuff. So yeah, just wanted to plug those guys while we're doing this. All right, so here's a turbo, and there's a gasket here, and just from the orientation to see how it works, that's how you reinstall it. And this is gonna be a song and dance now, because I gotta flip this over, try to get it in. So wish me luck. Hopefully this goes without too much interruption. And I can't get the exhaust manifold gasket on until I kind of slip this in, because I don't have any studs to hold it on. So I'll try to film it, but here goes. So here's a part number for the Gen 5. I'm thinking I gotta, well, I don't even know how I'm gonna do this, because now the pipe is in the way. Well, maybe I can do, yeah, this is a good idea. I can rest it on top of the pipe. So let me open it up and get this thing positioned. All right, so here's the orientation. You got the two holes, and it's a multi-steel, so it's gonna go in here. So what we're gonna do, I'm gonna rest it right here for now and see if we can get this thing slipped out. All right, I'm just cleaning these threads because they were kind of nasty when I like, yeah, obviously exhaust manifold bolts, if you know, you know, but they're pain in the ass. Luckily none of these broke. One got damaged on the way out, but I got some new ones to replace it. But the good news is none of them broke inside the head, so then that's just a nightmare. This wire brush just did a good job cleaning up the threads. You can see that oxidation is kind of falling out. Alright, so these have the red Loctite on them. So I will get the proper tool so we can thread them in. So I'm going to take out this bracket. I put it on temporarily because I painted it, because it was, again, one of those things that was covered in rust. So I'm going to take this off, and now we're going to try to get the turbo on. I was able to get 2 studs on. I think it might work, just to position the turbo in with just the 2 studs. When I was taking it off, I think I left 1 stud in, and I was able to get it off fine. So hopefully it goes on with no issues. Let's see. All right, so here's that gasket. Make sure it's on the right orientation. Just gonna hold it in place right here in my hand, and get this in place here first. All right, it's a little bit tricky the way I'm doing this, because, you know, normally you leave the studs in and you pull the lines off, but in my case, I took the studs out and I left the lines on. But you can work. I put 1 stud here, and then I had to take this one out, and then you can actually just move the gasket up once you get it on, and it slipped onto here. I have the gasket in place, so there you go. So if you come right back here, you will see our gasket is in place. Right there. Show you guys. There you go. And now I just gotta tighten up these 2 12s and get those studs in, and turbo is on. We got it on, and I got all the studs back in, and I got some new hardware, because the ones that came off were rusted, or they still came out intact. But I figure if we're doing this, just throw some new hardware on it. So we got new hardware for this, and we're gonna go ahead, put these on, and torque these down. So I gotta torque the, let's see, it's 8 studs over here, and then we got the 2 down here that we replaced this gasket, and then we gotta tighten up this bracket that holds the turbo in place. From there, we can go ahead and throw a downpipe on, but I gotta change the seal, so I wanna see the clearance. If the downpipe gets in the way, I may just mock up the downpipe and save this for another video, but we're definitely gonna get this hose replaced, and that's probably gonna be it for today. You know, we try to do a lot on these videos, but the problem is it takes time, and you guys, I can't keep you focused for more than 10 minutes, so I gotta break the videos up. So yeah, so anyways, it's coming along. I think it looks great. A lot better than what it was when it first arrived. So happy to see that. And hopefully Gregory will be pleased as well. So looking at my manual here, for a 3S GTE, the manifold bolts are 38 foot-pounds. So that's what we're going to tighten this thing up to, 38 foot-pounds. Because again, this is a Gen 2 3S GTE, but blocks are the same, so it should be the same. 38 foot-pounds. And that is a turbo installed. Now I have to do the 2 on the bottom, so let's not forget. Let's just go through this side. I'm kind of doing a crisscross pattern here. Alright, so we got all 8. So now I'm going to go torque the oil line under the bottom and tighten up the bracket, and the turbo is installed. So for the oil line, it's 13 foot-pounds. All right, 1 and 2. All right, so that's good. Gonna get my bracket in, and then I think we're gonna go ahead and throw on the water neck, and we're gonna call that a wrap for today. Got a new PCV in while we're at it. All right, there you go. So now let's get this oil line done. Oil hose, it goes right here, and it is very hard to find, just so you guys know. I actually had to order this thing from Japan. There was nowhere in the US I could find it. That's the part number. And there's a little gasket that goes under here, so we're going to take this off, replace it, throw this hose on, and then we're good to go right here. All right, so let's get this thing off. Oh, it came off pretty good. I thought it was going to be stuck on there. And as you can see, it's even rotted right here. So if we look at the new one, trying to figure out this orientation. This is how I took it off. So maybe, yep, that looks about right. Yep, looks about right. So that's the orientation. But as you can see, this piece is, like, it probably was gonna leak anyways. There you go. So yeah, good thing I'm replacing it. We're gonna slip this on, and this hose, it's, you know, it's funny, it's a very simple hose, but it's so hard to find. And I know not every hose can be used for oil, so it is somewhat specific. So I'm very happy I found this, because the engine did come with the hose torn. So we're not just changing it, we had to change it. All right, looks pretty good. Let's get these 2 on. And we're gonna torque it. I'm gonna torque it to the same 13 foot-pounds that we did for the oil line under the turbo, because I think it's same size hardware, so it should just work out. All right, so I think I'm gonna put the downpipe on next, and then do the water neck. So just kind of push along. So there's our gasket for our downpipe. This is our Gen 5, so we're gonna go ahead and throw this on. Now this one is always a little bit tricky because you can't really see, you can't get it on like that. So you got to put your stud in first Actually, let me show you how we do this one. You gotta put the stud in. So, let's get this stud all the way in. And then you slip your pipe on, and you kind of have to walk the nut on like that, see? Because if you push it all the way down, you can't get it on. So the nut kind of walks in with the downpipe. See that? So that's the trick, guys. Alright, so here's the modified water neck that we got from TCS. So we sent the factory piece in and they added this section right here. So it goes here, this is the gasket, so that's for Gen 5. And then you could get this part from Napa. There's a hose that I typically buy, but I got the Toyota piece. It goes from right here and it connects onto here. So kind of like that. So we're gonna replace that, and these water lines also get connected. So I have to still get some lines for here, so you'll see that off camera, but for now we're gonna go throw this on and like where we're at. So this build is coming together. So Greg, it's almost there. All right, here goes the gasket. Now we're gonna get the water neck on. So you gotta slip this guy on here. You gotta position this thing so it slips on. So you kind of have to play with it a little bit, and I gotta get the clamps on. So I'm just mocking it up for now. So here we go. So if you come around here, you see what I'm saying. You gotta, this thing has, you gotta position it so it kind of fits in place. So I'll rotate it a little bit. And that feels about right. So now I can get it on with the clamps. All right, so we got that on, and again, the key is just positioning the hose here, so when you slip it on, you're not really fighting it too much. And then you just get your hose clamp. I got this little tool, which is very convenient because these clamps can fly on you. So this tool is very, very convenient. Locks it in place like that, so you can work. And now we're gonna put our bolts on, torque it up, and we're done for today. All right, so I'm almost done here. I got the second hose on. Just gonna put the clamps on right here. And then I gotta go put, obviously we gotta tighten up the water neck. So I'm gonna put the 3 nuts on right here, torque them down, and it's a wrap, guys. All right, guys, so the water neck is on. This is gonna be 9 foot-pounds right here. So just torque it up to 9 foot-pounds. I did take on a little bit more than this video could manage, so we're not gonna get to the timing today. But I think this is good progress for the motor today. So yeah, so next video we'll do the timing, and you guys stay tuned. Hope you're enjoying the Gen 5 3S GTE build, and I look forward to seeing you guys next week. Take care.